Hello viewers, this is Marianne from Revealing Light Tarot. I've been wanting to do a channel now for quite some time. I've actually been wanting to channel Sigmund Freud. Now I don't know why Freud has come through so strongly, but he's telling me I do know, and that's very consistent with his work. I have obviously in my studies, my university studies, we have touched on Freud. The thing that I remember most about Freud is the id and the ego. And I always felt that Freud was way too earthly anchored, if you like. Even though he is considered the father of modern day psychoanalysis. And he is here now, and he's actually quite agile and mentally agile. And so as I talk, I'm actually I'm actually hearing him respond. So I've noted down some questions here. And we'll work through them. I hope they're the right questions. Let me just describe his energy to you. At first, I got him very late in life, when he was quite comfortable, physically comfortable, because I'm getting the word austere, that he was quite austere, very obviously piercingly intelligent, but very rigid and very serious. And of course, one of my questions is any regrets, and he's telling me that dining at the table, sampling the delights of life, he should have done more of that. And I think that's why I got him later in life, because he was so much more comfortable then to what he was. But the seriousness at which he approached his work, he was discovering, but he was really motivated to push through, and that is why he's a pioneer. That's why he's a trailblazer, because he pushed through and he discovered the unconscious, basically, and what happens when we repress the unconscious, and how that develops into neurosis later in life. But that's not why he's come forward to me. The reason that he's come forward, and I've had this really with him when his energy presented, it just showed, and he's wanted to come forward now for a few weeks, but I it always needs to be the right time with these channelings, and today was the right time, it appears. So there's a certain amount of stillness that you need to listen and to hear. Okay, so the reason that he wanted to come forward with me is that he feels that the connection and the importance and the explanatory nature of spiritualism, and he didn't get that. He didn't get that in his lifetime with what he discovered. So when he looked at the unconscious, and he did see it as a vast reservoir, and I'm really getting this word reservoir very strongly. He thought that the reservoir was contained within this body, and he only thought in terms of one lifetime. What he wants to bring forward is that he now knows that what he discovered, the unconscious, is such a vast reservoir, it's virtually untappable. It goes right back to infinity and forward and back. It's nobody would be able to tap into it. And so while he was able to get to what motivated people in this lifetime in terms of their unconscious, he wasn't able to make that link between past lives and how they might affect, and also reincarnation and karma, and the blueprints that we come into this life with. And I'm going to ask him if there's anything, if there is such a thing as destiny and fate. And he brings me to the will. the spiritual will, actually, and how that determines how strong that is will determine how much progress we make. So that if someone is aware spiritually, they're more likely to examine the lessons and learn from the lessons so that they don't have to repeat it. So this vast reservoir, I want to go back to you know, as I said, the father of modern day psychoanalysis, able to do wonderful work with people to solve, to fix, to heal neurosis. I want to go back to that and why he has thought it is so important to come through on this point today. So he's saying, take sexuality for example. He was quite I won't say fixated, but some would say fixated on sexuality. And he's actually asking me to go back to my childhood and discover where I got so critical. And he's saying that's a self-defense mechanism. This is very difficult. Okay, so sexuality. So take sexuality, for example. Someone that comes into this lifetime with a mixed or a dual sexuality could very well be learning how to balance, learning how to express, learning to be authentic, for example. Now, he would have traced that back to childhood, something, a mother complex or a father complex, and I want to get to the mother in a minute. But in actual fact, what he was missing was what actually happened before this current lifetime. Okay, so he's sort of alternating between those kind of ideas and then slipping back into psychoanalysis as well. And both are equally valid in allowing someone to understand why they're experiencing the things that they are, why they're experiencing mental health challenges or mental illness. And again, that's a choice when they come in. It's part of their blueprint. Something around the complexity of mental illness is a particular challenge that people choose before they come into this lifetime. Okay, so it's just reassuring me that we are all safe, that we are protected, because the complexity of mental illness is such that even the trying to understand something that you can't. If you look at neurosis, it brings forward a lot of anxiety. So that message around safety and being, that we did choose that, and ultimately it doesn't matter how tough and how dark and how bleak things get. The light is always there, and the lesson is always there, and the help is always there. Okay, so I want to ask him. Let me just. Okay, so when I first opened this reading up, I got the image of the mother, and I feel that Sigmund's mother was very important to him. I feel that he's telling me that she was his everything. Because the mother is a way of anchoring, and he also faced his own mental health demons and challenges, and part of working through those was to help others. So while he was working through that with other people, he was actually coming to understandings himself. And he's actually telling me that's a little bit of what I do with my spiritual work, that I go and I explore and I try to find the answers, and those answers can often be found in other people. So the importance of and he is giving he's tipping his hat to Carl Jung, who was a student of his, who actually looked at universal consciousness. He's tipping his hat because he took it a little bit further, but I'm still getting not far enough, because the gap here at this point in time for orthodox medical practitioners, psychiatrists, is to connect the dots with what is occurring with the patient and factor in, along with everything else that's happened in this lifetime, to take it a little bit further and look at the spiritual aspect of what is occurring. Because when those connections are made, the discoveries can be stronger. The discoveries for the patient can be stronger. So I'm getting his focus on instinct. He could actually see. I've just got a picture up of him. I don't know why I chose this picture. It's actually him when he's older, a lot older, and I feel that he was less rigid, though still. I wouldn't call him uptight, but there was an element of that to him, and. Be, he's just saying that when we're rigid like that, it is a way of managing anxiety, or managing the internal tumultuousness in us, and then we hold ourselves quite rigid. But again, if we were to let go, of that rigidity, it will actually make us more comfortable. It's rigidity won't protect from those feelings of fear. In fact, the best chance of managing that is to soften and let go and lean into it rather than resist it. So, sexuality, the id, the instincts. I feel he was very, very, very good, very piercingly good at picking those instincts up in people. He was, without a doubt, an absolutely brilliant mind, a far-seeing mind. He could see right into the personality, right into the id, right into the ego, and what he termed the superego. But again, there was a fourth dimension, and this is he keeps wanting me to repeat this, that his work didn't go far enough. Okay, so connecting with the spirit. Why are people connecting with the spirit? Because they know innately that that we haven't gone far enough, and so this is almost like another frontier, and this is the exploration of this frontier is occurring now, in this time, in this place. Okay, it's a very critical, he's telling me, critical time, where we're moving more away from what we can see, toward finding and looking for the things that we can't see, because we instinctively know that they're there, that the things that we can't see, we know are there. We just have to find them. And it is in the instincts to search, to explore, to want to move beyond instinctive behavior. And so what we're seeing now is instinctive behavior across the world in our leaders. We're seeing this, and also returning to instinctive behavior, and moving through things like ego, but instinct. I'm coming back to the instinct, and we're seeing how almost a illness there in operating purely from the instincts. And he's saying it's actually quite sad that is all that these people are willing to engage with. But he's saying that if you think about a spectrum, you've got the instinctive behavior here, and then you've got the spiritual, or the higher plane, the higher behavior, the higher motivations here, which go beyond just values and ideals that you learn in childhood, because that was his definition of the superego. He's going to a knowing, Yeah. It's a knowing that that reservoir that I spoke about, and I come back to that word reservoir and why he wanted to come through. It's a knowing that that reservoir is there and it is so infinite. It's a feeling. We just know it's there. And so it's natural to want to explore that. And so that's what we're moving into now. So what more could he have done? Okay, I'm going to his dream work. He didn't understand at the time. He he focused in on the emotions that were generated during the dream, and he used that in a way, this psychoanalysis, rather than accepting the possibility that that the dream state was connected to this vastness. So he's saying in some ways his work was limited. The unconscious doesn't just go down. It goes up. It goes sideways. It goes everywhere. Everywhere. And that's really important, he's telling me. Whoa. That he saw the unconscious as being embedded and going down almost into this instinctive sexual motivations, but the unconscious doesn't do that. Actually, it actually goes up. It goes to the exploration. It actually goes back and forth between that vast reservoir. And if I asked if his work was complete, and if he had have started to do that, he could have at least then looked at this concept of time, even in the one lifetime. He could have perhaps projected forward, sort of almost like a prediction, which then would have influenced his work. So that's what he would have liked to have done. To even just in his lifetime, is to go forward in a patient's lifetime, to look at the growth and development if the lessons are learned, and then look at the projected growth and development if they're not learned. And then once that is established, then to start incorporating a very gentle spiritual aspect to his work. That's what he would have liked to have done. So what was he trying to accomplish? He was trying to accomplish accessing the hidden, what was hidden that he assumed was in the lower planes. And, you know, that was quite valid, because that we still work that way now. But there's more. Okay, but there's more. Okay, I'm going to pull some cards now. There's also a message around he's had a tendency in this lifetime to be very hard on himself. And I'm coming back to the mother. Okay, so the mother figure in his life. And I don't know, I haven't read around his relationship with his mother. I'm sure it's there, and I'll go back after this reading because it's something that actually was brought through that's relevant. So it was a matter of wanting to live up to his mother's image of him in some way, and he was quite hard on himself as a result. Yeah, I'm kind of getting into, and I'm not sure that, that I want to go this deep, but there were elements of his mother that were incorporated in his personality, and he was wanting to solve that mystery as well. Okay, all right. So the things in his mother that were not that caused him the most problems he realized were in himself, and he wanted to find the answers for that. And so that going back into the childhood and understanding the patternings were also part of what he wanted to discover about himself. Okay. I want to ask for what sort of information that he wants to bring through. And I'm going to colours. I don't know why I'm going to colours, but I am. Everything in this world is colour. And some of the colour therapists have done quite good work with colour, emotion, choices. The energy vibration of colour is where I want to go. And he's telling me this is more probably suited to a Carl Jung channeling here, because Carl Jung worked a lot with archetypes. Something around colour. Colour can be predictive, colour choices and predictions. Predictive as in what where the patient is sort of at or up to, and that our attraction toward colours can tell us a lot about ourselves. Everything is colour, everything is light, everything is colour and everything is light. Okay, let's see what I asked what deck he wanted to use, and I've pulled the Spellcaster's deck because he's showing me that so much of the work back in the time that he lived dealt only with a society that wasn't inclusive, and the Spellcaster's deck includes archetypes and imagery from all races, or not all, but other races across the world. Okay, so all right. Okay, so he's actually psychoanalyzing me as we speak. Okay, he's talking to me about guilt. All right. And not having to carry the guilt of others on my shoulders. Okay, because I feel the guilt, or I feel guilty on their behalf. And that's really to do with other things within me. Okay, so I kind of just want to say, get out of my head a bit. He's saying you asked me in, and so you're getting the benefit of that. Okay. Psychoanalysis can be difficult, It can dredge up a lot. But he's telling me that, once you dredge something up, you clear it, you clean it, you purify it, and it's able to flow unimpeded again. So that's the value of psychoanalysis. And again, letting go, not being rigid, and leaning into the lessons. Okay. All right. What messages does Mr. Freud, do you, Mr. Freud? What messages do you, Dr. Freud? What messages would you like me to bring through? Okay. The King of Wands has come through quite strongly. That's interesting. So the King of Wands is again standing in your own power, but being inspired to stand in your own power. And this is someone, the King of Wands is someone who is ready really to lead a journey. And he's telling me that everyone can be a leader in their own lifetime. Everyone has a story. Everyone has something to offer. Everyone can lead. And this competition that we're often that often comes into so much of the way that we live in this 3D existence, this competitiveness. really is illusionary, because if we realize that we're all leaders and we acted like leaders, then there would be no need for that competition. Part of leadership is listening. Okay, he's bringing forward the Justice card. Okay, now I'm getting also another hit that our leadership is wrong at this point in time, that it's out of balance, and I go back to the instinctiveness of our current leaders, and also almost, if you notice, there's a wheel in the back of this card. It's the Wheel of Destiny, and we talked about destiny earlier on. And so that there are certain points when these lessons are stronger and we're at a critical point. All right, the Nine of Swords, he's talking about anxiety. Okay, he's actually trying to soothe our anxiety at this point in time. He's understanding that our leadership, the justice, the destiny, the karma that's occurring across the world at the moment, the time that we live in, is a very anxious and worrying time. I'm sure there's a lesson here, a lesson for each of us in this larger picture. Strength. Strength and endurance is another important message that he's bringing forward. And also taming the beast within. I'm feeling a really big draw around instinctive behaviour. It's okay. So basically, what he's bringing through, and he's actually quite worried. He wants to make this point. He's actually worried about this, that the instinctive behaviour where people rush in and they don't consider another is actually going to provoke lessons here. We need to move beyond the instinctive, and we need to have that connection with ourselves. It's almost like the self fighting against the self. We need to have the Queen, with the Queen of Wands. We have both the King and the Queen of Wands in this spread so far. And the Queen of Wands is someone that actually does use intuition, that does use this spiritual connection, this, I guess, knowledge of something higher to actually act and react beyond an instinctive way of behaving. So there are messages around the divine feminine here that are coming through, and justice is the challenge for our leadership, our current leadership that operates only instinctively and through the ego. I'm pulling the Lovers. Okay. This is heart-centered. This is the softening that I was talking about that's come through in my other readings. This is a reunion with self, and this is directly connected to the rigidity that anxiety and worry provokes. So just as we miss things when we act instinctively, we will miss things when we are anxious, when we are worried, when we are rigidly protecting ourselves. The Three of Pentacles, there's a strong message about working with others to fix something. It's like fixing the human race at this point in time. Because it's careering off track. It's regressing back to the instinctive, to the id, rather than it's listening to the lower. It's not listening to the higher. There is a strong message here about reunions with self, and reunions with. It's almost like family, the family of humanity. There needs to be fixed. There needs to be those reunions. And we've got the Star of Hope coming forward here. Again, hope needing to light the way. So when we see this contrast between this instinctive, intolerant almost, things like racism is instinctive, and so because it's straight away a focus on what is different to you. We need to understand that we are bound together. We are bound together because we are part of the same source. And once we realize that, once we transcend the body, and we can look at things in a spiritual light, we've got more chance of that reunion with self, and reunion with a heart-centered approach. And the Ten of Pentacles, the monetary aspect, again, instinctive survival, wanting to accumulate more than what one needs. And the Three of Cups here, he's asking how we actually do support one another. Do we actually do that over a drink or, many drinks? The way that the support is focused on the bodily aspect of things. So I'm getting a real draw to the physical body, the instincts, and not engaging with that higher self. Once we do that, once we engage with our higher selves, we can offer real, meaningful, lasting support. Okay, and we can dispel almost magically, it's like waving a magic wand, the insecurities that actually cause people to act out or act up. It's interesting. And what's hidden from our view is loss. Okay. So it's almost like we have to lose ourselves to find ourselves, is what I'm feeling that he wants to say. Okay, I just want to see if there's any final messages here that he wants to bring forward. Has he said everything that he wanted to say? Okay, he's thanking me. He's calling me a kind lady. Okay, he's saying that part of me is my higher self, all right? And the guilt and the regret, and that's the lower self. And he's actually saying that with some sort of irony, that if we were operating through our higher self, there'd be no need for psychoanalysis. Okay. But again, the mind is always drawn to learn, to discover, to explore, and all of these things contribute to the whole. Okay, I'll leave that there. I just want to take a moment now to thank him for coming. Thanking for him for coming forward. He feels, he's telling me that it was in his a little bit of self-interest there that he did. He also wanted to connect with me for other reasons as well. And most of all, he's coming back to this idea of a vast reservoir and how important it is to navigate within your own vastness, including the possibility of other lives, the possibility of our own choices that we made before we come here, before we came into this lifetime. And if if there were two choices that you could make, to be happy or unhappy, if it came down to that, what would you choose? What would you choose? He said taking small steps to be happy is actually very healing. Okay, I'll go along with that. I'll agree with that. All right, okay. He's telling me he might come back again at some point in the future. He says when we've learnt to really choose this higher way of operating rather than this instinctive way of operating. He said there won't be a need, as I said, for people like him. Okay. So where does it start? It starts again. It comes back to the mother. It comes back to the mother and the father, and incorporating this spiritual aspect to teaching children that are coming into this world. And he said that will happen in time. That will happen in time. And that is part of the evolution of humanity as well. So don't despair in this blatant instinctiveness that you're seeing from your leaders today. It's all part of a divine purpose to learn, to explore. It's us exploring our own divinity. All right. Thank you so much. All right. Yep. Okay, he's leaving. All right. I'm feeling sorry, but I'm feeling a sense of relief because there were many times during that channeling where I was copying a little bit of psychoanalysis as well. Well, okay, so I'm going to go do a couple of things now. I'm going to go back and have a look at his relationship with his mother because that was intriguing. I might also look at Carl Jung and whether he touched on the vastness of other lives and this spiritual connection, or I might find somebody that has melded the two. But we'll have a look. We'll have a bit of a search. But for now, that was the channeling of Sigmund Freud, and I'm very grateful that his energetic vibration was present and that I was able to learn from it, and I will review this this video with that in mind, that I will learn from what came through today. So thank you very much for your support. As always, I hope you enjoyed this channeling, and I'll be back again soon. Thank you.